This is TWiT.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to TWiT, your tech hub for intelligent, thoughtful conversations. If you want to take your experience to the next level and support what we do here at TWiT, say goodbye to ads and say hello to Club TWiT. With Club TWiT, you unlock all our shows ad-free. You also get exclusive members-only content. We do a lot of great programming just for the club members. You also get behind-the-scenes access with our TWiT Plus bonus feed and live video streams while we're recording. And don't forget the fantastic members-only Discord. It's where passionate tech fans like you and me hang out, swap ideas, and connect directly with all of our hosts. It's my favorite social network. I think you'll like it too. Club TWiT. It's not just a subscription. It's how you support what we do and become part of the TWiT family. Your membership directly supports the network, helping us stay independent and keep making the shows you love. If you're ready to upgrade your tech podcast experience, head to twit.tv/Club TWiT and join us today. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the club.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to our monthly AI User Group in the Club TWiT. I am Anthony, one of the producers here at the company. And with us is our regular AI super user, Darren Oakey. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing all right. So I guess, well, first I should say, hopefully Leo is just running a bit late and he'll hop on shortly. I did text him. Hopefully he sees it. But yeah, we'll just get started. And I guess Leo asked Darren to, well, first of all, he heard that you had your own MCP server for Obsidian, and then he wanted you to kind of walk us through it, right? Is that what the
yeah, was? I was thinking here, rather than go through the Obsidian one, if we just wrote one from scratch.
Oh, okay.
Probably easier and more interesting.
What were you thinking?
Well, if we make a really simple one, and then we can extend it, or we can, because with vibe coding now, you can do these things really quickly. So
okay.
So and we get the whole idea of it. So
okay, I'll let you take over, and I'll prompt with any questions.
The first thing is MCP is just a program. Like they call it a server, but it's just a program that runs on your machine that talks typically via standard in and standard out. Now it talks via this JSON protocol, but which you can do yourself, but it's obviously there's like heaps of libraries to do it. And so it's much easier to use those. So I used a library called FastMCP, which is just a Python library. But we can see very quickly once we do it that it's quite easy to do yourself if you wanted to. So if we go to source, like the say Club TWiT or something, and if I open up Claude, I'm just going to say, write me an MCP server using FastMCP. And I often use, for demos, the idea of a task manager, because everybody likes having a task manager, and they're quite easy to understand and easy to deal with. So if we want to be a task manager, right? So we want to store all the tasks in a JSON file, maybe in my root directory, ~tasks.json, and we want the following functions. So we want to be able to add tasks, to list tasks, and to complete a task. So that's probably all you need. Let me see. Write it in Python and use fast. Oh, I already said FastMCP. So if we run that, it'll take a few minutes or a few seconds, really.
Oh,
now
actually, could you make the window a little bit bigger and do Command plus to make the text larger? So it's a little harder to read on the stream.
Command plus. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the trouble is it takes a little longer than it needs to because I've got a whole bunch of instructions in my system library that are in my Claude.md or whatever that say you've got to have a particular structure. So if I go into source city, what did I call the thing? Club TWiT. TWiT and plus command. So you can see it's actually created a structure. It's created certain things according to my rules. It's putting all the source in source. It's putting all the requirements. I mean, it's built the requirements. It's created a README, and it's created a couple of directories for temporary files and things like this. So it's okay. It's finished. It's testing it. So if we look at what it's built, so code source. Let's open on the wrong window. So I'm having cursor. Okay. Is this too small?
It's fine. I mean, if you can, yeah.
Yep. Okay. So if we look at what it's built, ignore the fact that it's built a test because I tell it to always build tests. It's pretty simple code. It's using FastMCP and it's called it a task manager. So that's the name of the MCP. And then down here, it's running the thing. But the main thing is all it's done is created these attributes saying it's a tool. And those mean that this function should be exposed to the world as a tool. So it's created very simple functions like list task, add task, and you don't have to worry too much about the actual code. The main thing is it's just attributed this, and by virtue of the fact that we're using FastMCP to run it, and we've attributed it as a tool, that's all that is needed to expose it to the MCP. But if we see what that actually means, if we ran this, it's actually outputting that thing. It's actually outputting to standard out. But you can see, I mean, sorry, this is going to standard error, and you can see that we now have an MCP server running going to standard out. So it's saying transport standard input and output. So it's now just running, and if I type something, it would be sending to it. But of course, that's not valid JSON, and it doesn't know what to do with it, so it doesn't do anything. But you know, we've written an MCP server. Oh, sorry. So ignore that because it didn't like the fact that I was trying to kill it with lots of weird things. So we've written an MCP server, and we'll look into what we've actually written later. So to understand it. But the first thing to do is actually understand what we do with it. So if I think I'm in this directory here. So if I go to Claude now, wait, wrong window, wrong screen. I can now hook my MCP server up to Claude. here and I go edit config. It's sort of annoying that it's not, there's no GUI for it. So here's the config, and here's the list of MCP servers that I have. So if I'm going to create another one, I call it tasks. I'm going to use Python because there's no magic here. It's literally just running this command with this arguments. So if we think, what's this directory? I just want to run Python with that thing and with this. So I've now hooked it up to Claude. Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, I don't remember. Well, I just want to be clear. This is, if anyone's confused, I don't remember if you mentioned, but this is like the config file in Claude for your MCPs, right?
That's correct. Claude desktop config, and you get there from here. You click this edit config button,
Right.
and it just takes you to the thing. I think LM Studio and other things do it much nicer. Like they've got an actual GUI for adding it internally, but
Yeah.
fundamentally, all the MCP servers, whether it's Claude Code, whether it's anything, you've just got some way of registering. Run this command to be a server, and I think people get confused because it's called a server, but it's really just running this program.
Well, you have to run. I mean, it'll start. You don't have to have it running in the background. It'll run it.
That's correct. Because
Okay.
there is another way of doing this. You can put a HTTP address here, and then it's actually connecting to something that's running. But most MCP servers you use, it's just running this command when we run it. So there's no magic here. So if now we go, now the thing is, we've changed the content, restart Claude. So we restart it. And if we look at Claude Developer, now, see whether it's working, you can see it's now running. So just by restarting Claude, it just went through all of the things in my config and just ran those programs. And we'll see what it did in a second. Or actually, let's look at it now. So if we go to tilde/library city Claude. No, it's logs. Okay, so you can see that it's created this tasks.log because I called it tasks. So if we open that, that. So if this is readable, you can see it's going to run this command. Here's the command we had in the config. Here's the output we're seeing because the output is going to standard error, so it just logs all the output. So that's the output we saw before. Now the key thing is the client has sent through this message. So it's just, and you could actually run it and type it by hand. So it's just sent a message saying initialize this, protocol version this, capabilities, and my name is Claude AI, etc. So it literally just sends that to the program through standard out, and the program has responded with, yep, here I agree with the protocol. I've got these capabilities, and I'm a task manager. And then the server, and then Claude says, oh, okay, I see that you're initialized. List all the tools you've got for me, list all the prompts you've got me, and list all the resources you've got me. And it's literally just sending those through standard in. And then the program responds with, I've got no prompts for you, I've got no resources for you, but I do have a bunch of tools for you. And I've got a tool called add task, which is add a new task to the task list. I've got a tool called, and it takes these parameters, and you can see, I've got, it lists the other commands of complete task, etc., list tasks. So there's no magic going on. It's literally just run a program, said, what can you do? And then it's come back and said, I can do this, this, and this. And so if we try it, then I should have left that up. So if we leave that up and go to Claude, Claude, how do I get out of settings? Nope. Let me start Claude again. Oops. Sorry.
I don't have the jump
double
button.
click. I'm using Windows. I double click on the the Claude thing, and it starts two Claudes. Okay, so now whisks MCP create 5 random tasks.
Quick question.
Yep.
So it already, when you launch Claude the first time, it like asked for the instructions, like, and launch it, and like even before you even like done anything in Claude, once you boot it up, it looks through all the MCPs and figures out what it can do.
Yes, it runs each of the MCPs and then pings them and says, "Are you there?" as an MCP, like that initialize command, and then it says, "What can you do?"
Okay. And is that every time? Like every time you boot up, it'll just like,
Yeah, and this is why you can't have a whole bunch of MCP, can't have thousands of them registered, because all of those are also tokens that it then handles.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you'll see this is because this is the first time I've run it. It wants me to authorize this command. So it's saying, I'm going to run this. I'm going to use the add task function from the tasks MCP, and I'm going to send it this information. So I'm going to say always allow. But interestingly, you've got to do this not for an MCP, but for every individual function in an MCP. So I'm now allowing this, and now literally it's just calling. So if we look at our log again, you can see literally it's calling add task, and that's all it's sending through. And then this is coming and saying, this is returning to the LLM and saying task added successfully. And then because I said to the LLM, do 5 of them, it's going to go and then it's going to process that result. And then it'll call add task again. And then, so you can imagine, like, we're doing something fairly simple in this MCP, but you could do anything. You could then connect to your Gmail, or you could format your hard drive, or you can do anything you want, because you've just, in your MCP definition, you've said, here's the things I can do, and then the LLM is just calling out to them. Mm-hmm. Okay, so almost done. And if we look at this, we can see it's called 1, 2, 3. So it's got 2 more to call. And, I could just run the program and I could just type in this JSON or cut and paste this JSON and it would work the same. I'd see the outputs and I could run it. There's
if you know all the definitions.
Nothing special about the MCP.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is why it's been so successful, because it is such a simple paradigm. Like, you can get it up and running in 5. Well, you can see we started in sort of 3 minutes, and I've seen this happen before. In that, I think Claude itself crashed, so it's sort of started again. So if we try to get to this conversation, it's gone. But the thing is, it doesn't really matter because it would have been done. So if we look at cat tilde slash task.json, we now have a file there with 5 tasks in it. Right. You can see it also, it's given titles, and it's given a separate title and description, completed and everything. So here, if we go back to this, even though it crashed while processing that,
you could say,
the
like,
MCP server is
what are my tasks? Yeah, right. You could ask what's already there.
Yeah. Now, I always do this for initially because sometimes it doesn't really understand that, like, unlike skills, it doesn't really understand that you want to use an MCP unless you explicitly tell it to, especially with something general like tasks. So the first time I'll always say, use the task MCP, and I always tend to, like, my real MCPs, I always start with DAS, so it's not going to pick something else. So yeah, you can see it's going to, because this is the first time it's calling this particular function, which is the list tasks, it's asking me to approve it again. Now this is where it gets interesting, because so it's given me a list of tasks and everything, but this is where I could run that MCP server and I could write my own task definitions. My own task UI and everything. But the thing is, by having it in LLM, we can actually do stuff with it. So I can say, give me the list of tasks in a nice formatted table, right? So this is where you can use the LLM to interact with other things, or we could have 2 different LLMs, or I could or 2 different MCPs, and I could say, insert all those, send me emails with all of those tasks, or something like that, right? And so, of course, it's just calling the same list tasks function, but now it's given me them as a table. And if we go back to our, this thing, you can see, we've got tool calls, list tasks, and everything, and you can see I could just say complete the task and everything. And then if we go back to our code, so let's see. If we look at the server again, you can see all of these are just really simple functions. This saves the whole JSON. It generates the JSON, whatever, adds a task. But we're exposing them to the MCP just with that simple thing. So FastMCP is just, like, we could parse the JSON ourselves and say, if he asks for this task, call this function. If they ask for this task, call this function. But FastMCP out of the box just basically looks for anything with this @MCP tool and says, okay, I'll expose that as a task. And then it looks at this description here and it returns that as the description. So, if I wanted to add a new task, like that guy said on the on intelligent machines, if I wanted to calculate the cat ratio, and so it's a number of people, int, say return number times 10, right? If I happen to restart Claude, I could then ask for the optimal ratio of cats, and it would just come back with, or if there's like, or an optimal number of cats if there were 10 people, and it would just come back with 20, right?
Yeah.
Because I've just exposed that, so you can see it. There's no rocket science here. It's very easy to write and add an MCP. So I guess
Awesome.
that's about it.
Well, okay. So what? Now that you've shown us how to make one, what MCPs do you use regularly?
I've actually started using skills more than MCPs because there is sort of an overlap. But if one of the key ones that I use at work, I don't use it here, is that Obsidian plugin, because I only use Obsidian at work at the moment. So it indexes everything to it. But in terms of here, one of the interesting ones, and I also wonder if I can show it. I've got a thing called DAS-CAD MCP. MCP and start working on a 3D that allows me to play with designing things for my 3D printing. So this CAD MCP, it just lists the files on the CAD files on the disk. So let's say open gear.py. So you can see already, like from what we've seen, how it's working this. But the really interesting thing is I created a viewer. So that's just opened in a web page, which is not on the screen. It's opened this viewer in a web page. So now I can interact with it by changing the values here, but I can also interact with it by changing the values here and say, make it heaps fat, make the gear heaps fat. No idea what.
No, but that's very cool that
better.
it's like, yeah, but it's running a page in the background where you could keep an eye on it, right? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll see the code as it changes it, and it's not super fast because it's calling out Python to DAS-CAD of course it fails when I. It does actually work. I do actually use it, but
yeah,
normal demoitis.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get the idea. So, it's a GS. Most of this was vibe coded, and it's just a DAS-CAD MCP. So the MCP itself, when it starts, is running a little. When it starts off, it's not just listening to standard in and standard out. Oh no, it actually works. So see.
Oh, nice.
So one of the tools must have given an error, but it did make it fatter. Right, cool. And I could go and dick with the code myself, but fundamentally, I can use a combination of writing code and making LLM things, because often I don't know CAD query that well. So often I'll just ask it to do a general thing, which will give me the code, and then I'll tweak it in this visualization to get it right. Because I don't know all the whole work planes and extrusion and stuff perfectly. So yeah, that way I can play with the CAD.
Yeah.
Myself. Yeah.
Chocolate Milk Minisip did have a couple questions. Let's see. He says, if I wanted an MCP server to deal with, say, 7 zip files, maybe interacting with an email MCP, can it only do JSON, or is binary an option?
Well, JSON's the protocol, so you'd have to UU encode but obviously it can do anything that code can do. But JSON is the protocol it's using to talk from code to the MCP server. But if you wanted to if it just wanted to interact with JSON files on your disk, right, you could, like, I made a DAS command MCP, which just before Claude Code it came out, which just allowed it to run commands on my machine. So I could just tell it to go to GitHub and install this thing on my machine and set it up, and it would do it. Now, obviously, now with Claude Code, you can just do that, but you can do it. But no, there isn't intrinsically a binary option, and it wouldn't even completely make sense, because remember, the user for it is an LLM. So fundamentally, it's going to have to be turned into text for an LLM anyway.
He also had a question earlier, but I mean, this is more if you're not running it local. He asks, is there any handshake or security built into the MCP protocol, and or any way to restrict responses based on who is operating on behalf of?
There is, but I don't know much about it, because in the you can see all the MCP servers I use in the local sense. So it's just running the program. So obviously having security makes no sense at all, because you're running a local program on your local machine, and you've configured it. If you use HTTP or HTTPS in the request, it does support various authors. I don't know if it has use, but it definitely has authorizations, and so the actual server itself could have concept of users, and you could give different things different authorizations. But I never actually used HTTP. Actually, no, that's not true. I did for the windmill one, for the N8N. I've got an NCP server hooked up to my Claude Code, which talks to N8N, and that is a HTTP server. But again, because it's just running on another box on my machine, I don't have any authorization. Oh no, it does. It's got an API key, which is just set in the header in the config of the Claude Code.
Cool.
And I won't show you that because I thought I'll show you the config, and then I realized, oh, yeah, it's got an API key in it.
Okay, so like, let's go back to, you mentioned that like you're using skills mostly now because there's a lot of overlap. Would that, like that task one, would that be better as a skill, or do you think better as a, like the one we just created?
It could be done. Well, it could be done. It's either. See, the thing is, as a skill, it wouldn't be able to write and read to the file unless it was a local skill. So as a Claude Code skill, because skills are just a packet. If we look at on the wrong, I keep clicking on the stuff inside the window. Where is it? If we look at skills, just get installed. Say for Claude Code, they're just a directory of stuff which just gets wrapped up into a zip file. And if we look at one of my favorite things I've built, in this case, it's just an MD file, just a markdown file that explains what to do with the skill. So when Claude Code starts up, it looks through all its skills, reads quickly, scans all the skill.md files and registers the knowledge that it has these skills. So if we look at one of the other ones, this one, this has a lot more than just the skill.md. It's got lots of documentation, and it's also got a bunch of Python code that allows it to, has embedded tokens and allows it to talk to the server and so on. So a skill can be really quite complicated, or it can just be or it can just be just a few instructions to the thing. Now, if Claude Code is reading this, for instance, with Windmill Workflow, it can read the instructions and then it can run the Python code. But if I had a skill saying task skill and say write to this file and everything, it would work perfectly in Claude Code, but it would not work in Claude in the actual Claude UI or Claude Chat, because it can't write to my disk.
Oh, right.
Because it doesn't have that access. So this is where an MCP is better, because you're giving it access to an external server, or you're embedding the credentials in it, or something like this, right? So there are uses for both of them, but a skill is obviously much quicker. Well, it's not quicker to make, but it's quicker to. If we look at skill.md. They're different, because an MCP server is, I'm making these 7 tools that I'm going to give access to you. A skill is, here's a bunch of information about how I want you to use this thing.
Yeah.
And so you can actually give a lot more information, not just about how to do it, but about what you want it to do, like lots of details and all sorts of things like that. So it's in some ways bigger, but in some ways, yeah, they're not the same, but they do have overlaps. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but like I guess what I was trying to get to is, like, theoretically you could have a task skill that has all that, like, it can run.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it can run the app and stuff like that. Yeah,
you could make a task skill with Python program in it, and
it's all wrapped in together. Fine. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And you could upload it, and someone would put it there. But the tricky thing is, where would it write to? Because if you uploaded it to Claude, it's going to run that Python program in some sandbox, which is then going to go away. And so next time you come in, it's not going to have those those tasks that you saved.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, I could show someone that was asking, like Leo mentioned, an intelligent machines skill. It's like, yeah, it's just a set of instructions, but I could move over here. Let me share something real quick. Share. Okay, so at the end of the day, like, it's a zip file, and we could dig in. It's like, so normally, like, you'd have the markdown file called skill, right? And then you could have a folder called resources, which the skill could reference. I don't have any of that, because this is just a set of instructions.
Yeah.
And then we could go to.
The reason why you separated it like that is because it reads the skill.md all the time, but it might not have to, and all of that becomes part of your context, but it doesn't have to read all the resources all the time. Like, so you have the detailed instructions in resources, and then you just have like a couple of lines or in skill.
Mm-hmm. So this is that MD in Obsidian, and like it all it requires you to have like particular headers. If you turn on in your Claude app, if you go under settings, you could turn on a skill called the skill, right? I forgot what it's called, but basically, like, Claude could help you, write one of these.
I think skill creator,
yeah. So go turn that on and then ask for help. But basically, I just had a special prompt earlier for using the Claude Research app to, like, kind of do background research on future guests. And then later I after the skills launched, it's like, oh, let's just wrap that. So I could just, theoretically, you could just say, do guest research on Darren Oakey for intelligent machines. And since this is called intelligent machines guest research skill, it'll, call up the skill. So what'll happen is it'll, read this set of instructions. But it's just a detailed list of basically what we're looking for when doing a research task. And it's, it's just a really big set of, it's a huge, prompt dump essentially. Then, so it'll read this list, then go and, start doing its, it'll, using the research tool, it'll like come up with a game plan and then do, it'll search the web for 300 documents and then kind of build things from there. Okay.
Yeah, that's really
what I meant
cool.
to do. Thanks. Let's see. Does anyone have any questions here? Let's see what haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, Amanda asked if there are any repositories of MCP implementations, and there are heaps of them. There are heaps of libraries of MCPs online. You can find libraries, but it has become a standard, and so everybody, even people like OpenAI, not just have ways of even though it came from Anthropic, they don't just have ways of using MCP, but they've also got ways of using their stuff from MCP. So, and yeah, Google's producing them. Lots of things are. Now, a lot of them, they're not all tricky. I mean, they're not all simple to install because, like with most things with agentic AI, the problem is authentication. So there's always some way. And so like with the Google ones, you've got to go through some OAuth type thing to authenticate you. But yeah, you can get an out of the box MCP for almost anything. Like, I mean, I made the Obsidian MCP like really quickly when I heard about MCPs, just to play around with the idea. But there's like 10 Obsidian MCPs that you can, if you just type in Obsidian MCP, you can download it. So you'd be hard pressed nowadays to find something that you can't find an MCP for out of the box.
Dave asks,
Yep.
are you only covering Claude today? I've been leaning on non-paid models. It was easy to put them in a browser, but took a lot more work to get local models running in the Mac OS terminal. Yeah, we're already coming up to an hour, so we're going to, today was kind of a MCP talk, but we could talk about open source models in a future thing. But we could briefly touch on it. Are you still playing around with local models, Darren?
Yeah,
Not so
I'm
much.
pretty well all. I mean, LM Studio is. I'm pretty well all local models for things like I do with the workflow. Like I was explaining beforehand that I've got this assistant, and the thing is, it's constantly spamming, especially the inner monologue. It's constantly thinking, so I don't want to use up tokens. So I'm just using the internal models. Now I mostly use Olama, mostly because its server starts automatically, whereas LM Studio does not. Like you've got to turn on the server. But also Olama, it seems to be more updated more often than LM Studio, and it's because I'm hitting it with code. It's better. It's just lighter and more what I'm wanting. LM Studio seems to be more. If you just want to play around with the local model instead of the real one, it seems to be a much better choice.
Or especially if you're just getting in, it's easier because also it'll show you what models will run well on your system, like looking at your VRAM and stuff like that. LM Studio auto starts on the Mac if you wanted to. It leaves server runnings so your local API key is available. That's okay. That's good to know. Yeah. Yeah, there's still
And
a lot
also
of
video. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, there's still a lot of it seems like every month there's like a lot of cool models to run locally coming out. They're getting, they're getting better. I think was it one of the Kim models came out?
Granite. Yeah, also the Granite ones from IBM just came out. The Gemma ones. The every day you're hearing about a new model that's really cool, and some of them can do some really good stuff very quickly and with not much memory.
Follow Local Llama
also, one
on
thing
Reddit.
back to the MC.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Oh yeah, back to the MCP. In LM Studio, you can just load MCPs in, so you can do everything we just looked at with MCP, just with any local model like GPT OSS 20B.
Yeah, the Kimi K2, I think, just came out, like a thinking version. I mean, it's kind of I didn't look too deep into it. I think it's like kind of still too large to run on most machines, but hopefully there'll be some smaller, easier quantized models to run.
Yeah. And the thing is, you're much better off, I think, I've decided on the local ones, unless you've got a very specific task, you're much better off running the MOE models, because you can get quite a lot of something like GPT OSS 20B or Mixtral 8x7B. You can, even though the model download is huge, it's only using, like, even though like OSS 20B looks like it takes 20 gigs of memory or something, but in reality it only takes like 4, because it's only using 1 or 2 of those models at any given time.
Right. Okay. Did you want to leave us with anything, or I think we can wrap things up if I don't see any other questions coming in at the moment. Is there anything you wanted to, are you good? Darren, did you want to mention anything else?
No.
Okay.
Thanks. This is fun.
It was fun. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. We do these once a month, generally the first Friday of the month. We do have, in the open discussions in the Club TWiT Discord, there's an AI user group, and we're all hanging out there if anyone has ideas or questions. But yeah, we'll reconvene. Maybe we'll do we haven't done like any graphic stuff or creative stuff, so maybe we'll try something else next time, but we'll figure that out as we get closer. So I guess that'll do it for this month. All right. Thanks, everyone.